Let me ask you a question. Have you ever received a gift that looked amazing on the outside, beautifully wrapped, shiny ribbon, neat handwriting, only to open it and find something disappointing inside? Maybe an empty box, or something broken, or something that clearly had no thought behind it. How did that make you feel? Now, think about this. What if our worship looked beautiful on the outside, but inside something was missing? Jehovah, more than anyone else, can see inside the box. He sees not only what we say, but what we really feel. Not only our lips, but our heart. That is why our theme today is Honor Jehovah with your lips and your heart. In Isaiah's day, Judah had serious spiritual problems, especially among the religious leaders. Outwardly, they appeared very religious. They offered sacrifices. They spoke about Jehovah. They claimed to be wise and spiritually insightful, but Jehovah saw something very different. Jehovah said, in effect, "These people come close to me with their mouth. They honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far away from me." What was the problem? Their worship had become mechanical. Their obedience was selective. And their teachings were human-based, not God-based. Instead of teaching Jehovah's standards, they promoted their own ideas of right and wrong. They justified immoral conduct. And as leaders, they dragged the nation into Jehovah's disfavor. So Jehovah warned them, their so-called wisdom would disappear. Their religious system would not survive. And history confirms that Babylon wiped it out completely. Fast forward several centuries to the time of Jesus. Once again, religious leaders claimed to represent God. Once again, they appeared knowledgeable, disciplined, and righteous. But Jesus saw through the appearance. When the Pharisees criticized Jesus' disciples over ceremonial hand-washing, Jesus courageously exposed the real issue. Their concern was not holiness, it was tradition. They were strict about washing hands, but careless about caring for aging parents. Jesus applied Isaiah's words directly to them. In effect, he said, "You claim to honor God, but your worship is empty because you replace God's commands with human rules." That was strong language. And how did the Pharisees react? They were offended. The disciples even warned Jesus that the religious leaders were stumbling over his words. But Jesus did not back down. He explained that any religious system not planted by Jehovah would eventually be uprooted. He called those leaders blind guides and warned that when blind people lead others, everyone ends up falling. Hypocrisy did not stop Jesus, and it shouldn't stop us. Notice something important. Jesus knew his words would upset powerful religious figures, yet he still spoke the truth. Why? Because honoring Jehovah mattered more than pleasing men. That teaches us something valuable. True worship is not measured by popularity or approval, but by sincerity and obedience. Jehovah has always rejected worship that looks good on the surface, but is empty inside. Now let's bring this lesson home. Jehovah does not want us to obey him just in public settings, at meetings, assemblies, or in the ministry. He wants obedience from the heart. Someone who speaks truth in his heart does not live a double life. He doesn't pretend to be obedient while secretly ignoring Jehovah's standards. How does hypocrisy sometimes develop? It often starts small. A person may begin to question whether certain Bible principles are really necessary. He may think, this is a minor issue. Then he disobeys, quietly. If nothing bad happens immediately, he may think Jehovah doesn't mind. Over time, his conscience dulls, and his worship becomes routine rather than heartfelt. Eventually, his lips still praise Jehovah, but his heart is distant. Jehovah, however, sees everything. That is why we want to be honest in all things, not clever, not deceptive, not selective in obedience. How can we honor Jehovah with lips and heart? Let's consider 3 practical questions we can ask ourselves. 1. Do I obey Jehovah even when no one is watching? True obedience shows itself in private decisions, not just public ones. 2. Do I respect Jehovah's standards, or do I look for loopholes? A sincere heart looks for ways to please Jehovah, not excuses to bend rules. 3. When I speak about Jehovah, do my actions support my words? Our conduct should reinforce our message, not contradict it. When our heart is fully involved, our worship becomes joyful, not forced. Please subscribe. As we bring this discussion to a close, let us slow down and reflect carefully, not on the conduct of others, but on our own relationship with Jehovah. Jehovah has always made one thing clear. He is not impressed by outward form alone. He is not moved simply by religious language, routine activity, or appearances that look spiritual on the surface. What matters most to him is what is happening inside the heart. That is why the words recorded by Isaiah, and later repeated by Jesus, are so powerful and so relevant. They remind us that it is possible to sound spiritual while slowly drifting away from Jehovah in our hearts. It is possible to speak truth with our lips, yet fail to live it in our daily choices. And if we are honest, all of us are capable of that if we are not careful. That realization should not discourage us. Instead, it should motivate us. Jehovah is not looking for fault. He is looking for sincerity. He does not expect us to be perfect. He knows our limitations. But he does expect our worship to be genuine. So we might ask ourselves, when I speak about Jehovah, does my heart truly agree with what my lips are saying? When I obey his commands, do I do so out of love or merely out of habit? Please subscribe. Honoring Jehovah with our lips is vital. Our speech matters. Our preaching work matters. Our comments, prayers, and songs of praise matter. Jehovah listens to those expressions, and they bring him joy when they come from a sincere heart. But Jehovah is especially pleased when those words are supported by quiet acts of obedience, choices that no one else may ever see. When we resist temptation in private, when we remain honest even when dishonesty would be easier, when we obey Jehovah's standards even when they seem unpopular or inconvenient, moments reveal the true condition of our hearts. Remember this comforting truth. Jehovah is close to those who sincerely want to please him. He is patient. He is understanding. He knows that spiritual growth takes time. When we struggle, he does not push us away. He draws closer to help us. But at the same time, Jehovah lovingly warns us about the danger of drifting into hypocrisy. If worship becomes routine, if obedience becomes selective, or if human thinking begins to replace God's thinking, our hearts can slowly move away, even while our lips continue to speak words of praise. That is why regular self-examination is so important. We want to make sure that our worship is not just correct, but heartfelt. Not just visible, but genuine. Not just spoken, but lived. Imagine how Jehovah feels when he hears his name praised by someone whose heart truly loves him. Imagine the joy it brings him when our actions prove that our words are sincere. That kind of worship is precious to Jehovah. It is never wasted. It never goes unnoticed. So as we leave today, let us carry with us this determination to speak about Jehovah with joy, to obey him with sincerity, and to keep our hearts close to him at all times. If we do that, if we consistently honor Jehovah with both our lips and our hearts, we will be protected from hypocrisy, strengthened spiritually, and assured of Jehovah's approval. May all of us then give Jehovah the worship he truly deserves, not only with our words but with our whole heart.